ahead and get started. All right. So hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us here in our first Food for Thought for 2023, which I can't imagine how it's 2023. But we are so excited to see folks here today to hear from our very own Matt Jackson and Christine Cotter about our volunteer program. Hello, everybody. We are so grateful for all of our volunteers who, contribute so much to the food bank and our partners who rely on volunteers. We just really couldn't do anything without the amazing folks who give their time and their energy. But a lot of people also, don't know about some of the opportunities that we have or just how impactful our volunteers are. So I thought it would be really fun to talk with Matt and Christine about how our volunteering works, the impact that we have, different opportunities, and then just to hear a little bit about what the volunteer experience is like. Especially, I'm excited to talk with Christine, who before she started here officially was a volunteer with us. But let's get started. Maybe Matt, if you want to just share a little bit about your history with the food bank, how long you've been here, and just a little bit about how you kind of have seen things grow and change during your time here.
Sure. So my name is Matt Jackson. Currently, I'm the volunteer experience manager here at the Greater Cleveland Food Bank. I've been here 10 years this upcoming year. My first year with the food bank was as an AmeriCorps Vista, helping out the outreach team. Following that year, I was hired on to support the outreach team as a true employee and worked with them for about a year and a half before joining the volunteer team back in 2015. Since then, I've seen the program grow just in line with the food bank's production number increases over the past coming on full decade. But it's been crazy and surreal to see just how much we've expanded our opportunities to support the production of more and more meals and helping more and more people in the community. And we definitely couldn't do what we do without our volunteer support.
Well, I remember when I met Matt for the first time, and you said you were AmeriCorps, because I started as an AmeriCorps, not here at the food bank, at another organization. And so I always say, like, AmeriCorps people are the best people. And so, just for everyone who's here today, just know, our AmeriCorps team we absolutely love. And highly recommend, if you're ever interested or know someone who would like to give back. There's also a senior corps and different programs are really awesome ways to give back as well for special year-long programs.
On that same note, not to interrupt you, we recently partnered with through the Ohio Association of Food Banks. They brought senior corps opportunities to us. So we're going to be rolling out some information about that in the coming months. Don't have a hard date on it, but over the next year, we'll be promoting and recruiting volunteers to support us as senior corps members. But stay tuned for more details on that.
Wow, so you heard it here first, folks. You got the inside scoop. Well, I will move on from the program that hasn't started yet, but that is really awesome. That is super exciting. Gosh, I do have the scoop. I'm going to tell everybody we're doing senior corps work. That's awesome. Well, so I know that you were saying that obviously, the food bank has grown so much in 10 years. I think, as a lot of folks know, we just moved to our new facility, our expanded partner distribution hub, because there is so much need in our community, and we need to be able to have the capacity to serve more folks. And our volunteer needs have expanded along with that. I would love to just hear a little bit about kind of our main volunteer programs and what kind of opportunities people can have, because folks have different schedules, different kind of interests, physical capabilities, all of that. So if you would just like to give a little bit of a bird's eye view of our volunteer programs, that'd be awesome.
Sure. So it's changed up a lot over the past couple of years in the wake of COVID. Pre-COVID, we had, I want to say it was about 21,000 individual volunteers come out to support our mission through our various programs, donated about 92,000 hours of their time. This past fiscal year, we had about 9,400 individual volunteers donate about 87,000 hours of their time. And that helped us save about 2.3 million that we were able to reinvest into supporting our mission and our community. So the total number of individual volunteers that we had this past year was down significantly from the prior year, from the past full year pre-COVID. But a lot of that's due in large part to the changing nature of our program. A lot of the changes we put in place to try and maximize volunteer impact while also keeping people as safe as possible during these weird times. But these days, especially over the past couple of months since we've moved to the new facility and started to get everything rolling over here, we have more opportunities than we've ever had before when it comes to just the different projects that we have available. We still have the main ones that we've always had, but we've added some new ones into the mix. So I kind of broke them into indirect service opportunities and direct service opportunities. When it comes to indirect service opportunities, a lot of those take place here at the food bank itself. The big one being our repack area, which has been up and running for decades. But out there, we have volunteers helping out Monday through Friday and every other Saturday with projects related to sorting through and packing up incoming donations before they're ultimately distributed to our partner programs in the community. On the whole, those are 2-hour shifts. We just made that change this month as we moved into the new year. 2-hour shifts. We've got 4 shifts. Monday through Thursday, morning shift Friday, and again, a morning shift on the first and third Saturday of each month. So that's a good one for knocking out some really, really impactful work in a shorter block. But those are 9 to 11, 12 to 2, 3 to 5, and 6 to 8 p.m. And we're booking about 30 volunteers per shift for those opportunities. So it's a great one to get groups involved in.
Well, I know we had had smaller numbers. So that's awesome that we can invite more people to join us. I know our space here is also bigger. We can fit more people too.
Yes, that's definitely a big part in it. As more and more people have gotten vaccinated and COVID fears have started to ease a little bit, we're able to bump up those numbers. Pre-pandemic, it was a little bit of a wild west out there. We didn't have any sort of hard caps in place, but we learned over the past several years that it really is beneficial to have some harder caps in place so that things don't get too out of hand. Our staff is able to manage and provide a more impactful experience to those volunteers that are coming out to provide support. And we've also implemented hour-long breaks in between each of the shifts so that we're able to let the volunteers wrap up, have plenty of time to set up and clean up, set up the next project and be ready for that incoming group too. So there's a little bit of flexibility there, but generally we're hoping to have about 25-ish volunteers on hand. Booking 30 allows us to hedge against that a little bit in case we do get some last minute cancellations or some no-shows or some groups that show up with a few less people. We can still hopefully land in that 20 to 25 people range. But if we do get that full 30, that's great too. We've still got plenty of work. We'll usually have one larger project and maybe a side smaller project going too. Really depends on the day and what we have going on because there's so many different programs and projects that our repack team supports. But on the whole, and since pre-COVID even, the repack area has been our largest area when it comes to volunteer numbers and number of volunteers coming in, total hours contributed to our projects. So it's great to get more and more volunteers engaged in that, especially in this new environment here at the new building. So really, really excited about that. But honestly, I think I've told a lot of people that have come in over the past several months, and as we were preparing for the move prior to that, the biggest project area and change moving into the new building that I had trouble wrapping my mind around was our new and improved kitchen. I'd been so used to the old kitchen and how they'd made it work with the increasing production needs that we had out there. When it was first built at the South Waterloo kitchen, as I'm talking about back in the mid-2000s, we were doing about 1,000 meals a day out of our kitchen, had volunteers supporting the project as well, both inside the kitchen with hot meals and on the assembly line. But that space was built to support the production of about 4,000 meals a day. And over the past several years, we've been regularly doing 6,000 to 7,000 meals a day out of that space. So they were in desperate need for an expanded space. And as of that Monday after Thanksgiving, a month plus ago, the kitchen's officially over here in this new space where they have 2 large production rooms and inside of the hot meal production kitchen, and then also the kids cafe, summer feeding assembly line in a separate room too. So they've got plenty of room to expand production in the coming years. And I have a feeling we're going to need more and more volunteers as they start to settle in, get comfortable, get more sites on board, and expand the total meals they are doing on a daily basis out there. But these days we have 2 distinct volunteer projects to support that kitchen area. We've got hot meal prep, which runs from 8 a.m. to noon inside of the hot meal production kitchen. You're working right alongside our staff members, helping with a lot of this new equipment and some of the stuff that we brought over from the old facility to help us prepare several thousand hot meals and the portions that go into those meals and that get distributed to our partner program. So that's as easy as possible for them to serve people coming to their meal sites. And then we also have, that runs from 8 a.m. to noon, Monday through Friday. And then we're usually looking for about 10 volunteers to support that project. And then we also have volunteers helping out on our Kids Cafe assembly line. The Kids Cafe program runs throughout the school year. And in the summer, we have a summer feeding program, which runs more or less the exact same way from a volunteer standpoint, but supports summer-related children's programming. But we'll have volunteers come in Monday through Friday in the morning from 9 a.m. to noon to help out on that assembly line. And then depending on production needs, we'll also add in a 1 to 3 shift throughout the week to help wrap up the daily production, knock out stuff that didn't get completed that morning. And it looks like based on current projections, we're looking to host those afternoon shifts pretty regularly over the next few months. So some great opportunities to get involved and check out the new kitchen space on site here at the new Coit Road Partner Distribution Hub. We've also got our refrigerated donation intake project, which runs when I'm describing it to people, the work itself is very comparable to repack. You're sorting through and packing up incoming donations, but this is exclusively the perishable stuff that's coming in from our retail partners each week. It takes place inside of our retail cooler, which is much bigger than the cooler was at the South Waterloo location. So it's a really cool space to see, but it's a little cold. So we try to make sure that's as clear as possible for the volunteers that are coming out, because it's all about, if you want to have a good experience, it's all about preparing appropriately ahead of time and coming ready for it. So we definitely recommend bringing coats and gloves and hats, layering up. You can always take off layers, but it's harder to put on layers that you don't have with you. But we look for about 5 volunteers Monday through Friday in the morning from 9 a.m. to noon, and in the afternoons from 1 to 4 to help support Jason, our main staff member, leading that project area. And that's an especially important one because we're dealing with, again, perishable stuff. So it's important that we look through it, make sure we get through all those pallets of goods before they may turn, go bad, and we go to waste, and make sure we're sorting them and getting them into the appropriate storage locations so we can get them out to our partner programs and get some people some help. But then on site, we've also brought back over the last couple of months our marketplace shifts. Our marketplace area is where our agencies that are in partner programs come to shop and pick up food that they're taking back to their partner programs. A lot of them will be coming in to pick up an order that our warehouse workers have gone through the warehouse and picked and had ready for them based on an order they'd placed ahead of time. But this marketplace area, for lack of better words, it's where a bunch of random stuff gets distributed, it gets dropped off a lot of times. Yeah. You never know what's going to be down there when you're coming in. So these agencies have the opportunity to go through, kind of shop through these aisles and the coolers, see what kind of stuff we have available. And they're able to take exactly what they know their clientele will be able to use, and we'll be able to, and a lot of the stuff won't go to waste that way. But we'll have volunteers help, usually 2 or 3 volunteers a day from 9 to 11 in the morning, helping out Monday through Friday in that marketplace area, as it does get, because there's so much shopping going on, very comparable to a grocery store. It just gets a little unorganized, and we'll have volunteers help keep that area tidy, organized, help agencies load up their orders. And it's really, really beneficial. Down there, they're led by Chris McQueen, a relatively new employee who's been really, really great to work with for our volunteers. And then the last indirect service project is another one that's being done in a little bit of a different way over the past several months, even up to a year. And those are our CSFP, Commodity Supplemental Food Program, and home delivery distributions, which take place here at the food bank. Traditionally, we had the seniors for the CSFP program and a lot of our clients coming to the food bank to pick up these boxes that they're taking home. But over the past year, our outreach team and our agency services and partner programs teams have worked with DoorDash to partner and set up a home delivery model for this. So we are on the back end, getting a lot of information, figuring out where these deliveries are going, what types of people, what people need this support, and giving them an opportunity to sign up for it. And instead of coming here, the DoorDash drivers, we place orders through DoorDash, and the DoorDash drivers receive those orders just like they would if you were ordering food from a restaurant. And they come here, pick up these boxes, and deliver them directly to the homes of these people that can really use that type of support too. And we just revamped the way and area that we're doing it so that the flow is a little bit better for the drivers that are coming through with the increased numbers that we have. So we're now looking for about 12 volunteers on the second Tuesday of each month for CSFP from 1 to 4 p.m. or 1:30 to 4. I think we just changed to help load up those drivers' vehicles as they're coming through and help direct traffic throughout. And then our CSFP or our home delivery distribution takes place on the second and fourth Wednesday of the month. Don't quote me on that one. It's all on our website. But if I'm not mistaken, and that one runs from 12:30 to 4:30 and helps out with more or less the exact same duties. So we're excited about that new opportunity. Still the indirect service opportunity since you're not helping the clients directly, you're loading up the food that's eventually delivered to the clients. But that's a pretty good overview of all of the indirect service opportunities that we have. But then we've also got a couple really big direct service opportunities. One of them being our monthly muni lot distributions, which have been going on for almost
3 years.
3 years. It didn't feel right when I was saying it. It didn't feel right.
It doesn't feel so right. But yeah.
So yeah, we're coming up on 3 years in March or early April of doing these weekly muni lot distributions, where we're generally helping on average about 2,000-ish households and providing good amount of food, usually at least 4 different types of food that we're distributing to these households. And they're coming through the muni lot and getting loaded up by volunteers and able to take that home. But we're recruiting about 100 volunteers a week for these opportunities. And volunteers help out with directing traffic throughout the distribution, checking in the clients with our pantry track software, and helping to load those vehicles too. As we moved into the new year, winter, we did make some adjustments to the schedule for the distribution. So instead of being every Thursday, it's now the second and fourth Thursday of each month moving forward. And from a volunteer standpoint, that's a 12 to 4 shift. We have volunteers try to arrive between 12 and 12:30. Especially if it's their first time, so that they can get in, get to the right location. And then we try to get that distribution rolling by 1 o'clock when we're actually starting to serve the clients. But with 3 years under our belt, we've got it down to a science. Vince and Callie do a great job operating that. And it's been great to engage so many volunteers and a lot of big groups as well, included in those volunteers, in addition to a lot of our regular individual volunteers and some of the people that come in when they can, which we definitely appreciate too. It's been one of the best direct service opportunities that we've had since I've ever been on board. The other new-ish one, and that's also very exciting, is our Euclid Food Pantry, which opened its doors just over a year ago. And has had a pretty consistent schedule over the past year. And we've been recruiting about 10 to 15 volunteers almost every day to support their operation. I'd say in general, they have roughly 100 clients that come through the distribution each time they're through the Euclid Pantry each day they're open. It's a choice pantry, so volunteers, I already made a grocery store reference, but this is even more true representation or comparison to a grocery store. But clients are able to come through, shop for exactly what type of food they might need that we have available, take what they can use, and take it home and receive support in this way. But we have volunteers and staff members that help stock the shelves in there, keep all of that organized, help the clients shop through that pantry, get them packed up and loaded up into their vehicle. So that is a fantastic, relatively new project that we're always looking for more and more volunteers. And it's a good one to get some smaller groups engaged on, whether it's a group of like 10 to 15 volunteers that may be able to come in, or even less, or individuals too. We post that alongside all of our other shifts. And we're especially excited in the coming year as we open up our new food pantry at our South Waterloo location when it reopens as our client resource center. Still getting the names down.
Yeah.
And we'll have an on-site pantry operating in a very, very similar model there that we'll be looking for volunteer support at. But that's a pretty high-level overview of the projects that we have going on day in and day out. We post them all to our website month by month. At this point, all of January is up, and we'll be opening up February in the coming days. So that volunteers can go on, view a list of exactly what shifts we have available, what's currently available when it comes to so we have volunteer shifts that get booked up by groups and stuff too. So you'll be able to see the exact list of what's coming up and what we're still recruiting for online.
Yeah, wow. So basically there's nothing going on. It's super simple. You can knock it out, all of this organizing in about 30 seconds. Sounds super, super simple. No juggling at all. Oh, and just, I forgot to mention, if anyone has questions, please feel free to use the Q&A. We will gather those, try to have some time, towards the end of our conversation to get to those. But we would love to have any questions that you have. So I've had the, opportunity to volunteer, I think, in almost all of our programs, except for like the home delivery, kind of loading up the cars and all of that. And they really are some fun activities. There's music going, you get to know people. I will say the only drawback that I've seen from our programs is when you work in the kitchen with our lovely, kind, wonderful kitchen staff, is that our food is really delicious and it looks and smells amazing, and it's not for you. It's for other people. But that's definitely been the only complaint that I've had, because the food that our kitchen produces is really wonderful. And as our program partners have said, and we've heard in some other Food for Thoughts, the interest and the demand for hot and cold meal programs for folks who either kids and seniors especially who don't have the opportunity to cook because of they're in school or their living situation. There's a lot of demand for our meal program. And so that's one of the things we're most excited about with our new partner distribution hub. But Christine, I as Matt was talking about the Muni lot, that's how you got your start with the food bank, right?
Yes, indeed. I didn't know anything about the food bank until COVID hit. And the food bank had to move their distribution from the South Waterloo building to the Muni lot because all the traffic was piling up on Interstate 90 to get in line. And I had heard about that on the news. I had lost work because of COVID, so I was unemployed. I was super thankful that I was covered and kind of okay with unemployment, but realized that things could change for me quickly. And I just wanted to give back while I could. It was the first time in my life I ever had the time to volunteer. So I just wanted to do a little something, to show my gratitude, just, not to anyone in particular, just the universe. So I signed up for the Muni lot when I learned how long the lines were, even at the Muni lot. And once I went, I pretty much went every single week. I got to know other volunteers. I got to know the staff like Matt. I got to know some of the National Guard people, and everyone was so isolated and shut off in the spring, summer, and fall of 2020. So it was kind of nice, just it was my weekly thing to get out and socialize and also give back to the community. And then there were times when it was just so bittersweet. People who were coming through to get the distribution, they would just make thank you signs and put them in their car windows, to thank the volunteers. There were some people who would just be crying because they were so grateful to get through the line. So it's a very bittersweet experience. And I felt it to be very satisfying, very rewarding at the end of the day. I'd be tired. It was a long day, but you felt good about it. You felt good to give back. so that's how I started to learn more about the food bank. Like I didn't know that about our whole help center and how we help clients sign up for SNAP, and we help them with all sorts of things. Like I had no idea about any of that, and it just kind of made me really appreciate the food bank even more. And then I finally got a full-time job, and I think it was the end of November was the last time I volunteered at the Muni lot in 2020, and I was like sad about it. I was happy I got a full-time job, but I was sad about it because I was like, now I won't be able to come here. And like everyone was high-fiving me, the National Guards, and I was like, it's my last shift, I got a job. And they were like, yeah. The volunteers were like, yeah. And then it turned into a joke that I ended up getting a job right before the weather got really cold, so I wouldn't have to come down.
Yeah, you planned it.
I planned it perfectly.
I know how you are.
Yeah. I planned it perfectly. So I was happy to get a full-time job, of course, in the end of 2020. But I just kept on thinking to myself, like, if I could afford to volunteer all the time, that's what I would do. But, I have to support myself. So so I took the job, and I was always still following the food bank on Facebook. And about a year and a half into the job that I had taken, I saw a post on the food bank's Facebook page about this position. And so I was like, wait, what? So I read through it, and I was like, ooh, when I get home from work, because I had read it on my lunch break, it's like, that's the first thing I'm doing when I get home from work. I'm getting my resume updated, and I'm going to be applying for this position. So it's just been an amazing experience all around. And bringing up what you just mentioned about the wonderful meals that our kitchen makes. My mom is just now starting Meals on Wheels, and she gets them through the city of Euclid, who gets them from us. And I'm often over there when the deliveries arrive, and I've smelled the food when she takes the cellophane off. I'm like, oh, that smells really good. So it's really lovely to see like the end results of things that we do in our kitchen, to see how, it's like helped her mood because she's eating better food, because if she had her way, she would just be eating sweet rolls. So that's just like an added bonus to like my whole food bank experience, starting out as a volunteer, knowing nothing about the organization, and then working with all of our wonderful volunteers and seeing the lovely community that we kind of provide for volunteers. We give them like a real regular kind of schedule if they want to stick to it or not. But everyone's friends here. People hang out in our new lobby before their shifts start, and they chit chat. And it's really lovely to see, just from start to finish. And then like, again, to like the finish, like seeing my mom like get what we make here is just really, it's just really amazing.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, that's, obviously, volunteering is ultimately about, helping folks in our community.
Mhm.
But it really is true that, volunteering can like also do so much for you as a person. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
probably not most people end up with a job after volunteering somewhere. But it really shows, the power of just connecting with people however you can.
Yeah.
For those of you who have been to the food bank to volunteer in the last year or so, I'm sure seen Christine at our front desk helping to check people in. If you haven't, Christine, would you like to talk a little bit about your non-volunteering role with our volunteers?
My official role now, currently. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I sit at the front desk mostly. I definitely check in all the volunteers for the morning shift on the most part. So it's lovely to know everybody by name and by face. It's like it's barely even work anymore. I'm like, oh, I see Gloria coming in, check, she's here. And then it gives me more time to chit chat with everybody, which is nice. If they feel like chit chatting at 8 or 9 in the morning. So then I definitely try to, it's been a little learning curve being in the new building and trying to like separate the two 9 o'clock groups into who's going where. But I'm getting better with that. Practice makes perfect. And then I assist all sorts of people who walk in the front door, not just volunteers. I do try to help Matt a lot and take like the burden off of him from people coming in the front door that aren't volunteer related. So he has more time to focus on the volunteers and scheduling them and scheduling the big groups. I handle the mail, all sorts of things. I love it. It's never a dull moment.
It really is never a dull moment. You know, if you're, you know, for some reason coming into the building, especially, you know, in the morning shift, but also in the afternoon, I mean, it's hopping. It's a lot. I mean,
Yep.
again, because this is all super simple. There's not a lot of projects, not a lot of people, very, you know, nothing going on ever.
Part of it's just Christine's bubbliness. She just draws people in and kind of inadvertently traps them in conversation because she's so pleasant to hang out with.
That's
There's
true.
always
That's
people around
true.
there.
Of our skiing, you know, we got Christine, you know, in at the Muni lot, and now, you know, we're getting her at the front desk, getting the other volunteers, and then pretty soon we'll all be here at the food bank. That's the goal.
Mhm.
But you know, I know there are, you know, a lot of volunteers who come in, you know, because, you know, Matt, you were saying, we had about 9,000 volunteers, but the hours that people contributed, you know, is obviously way more than someone coming in for just, you know, 1 or 2 shifts. We've got folks who, you know, almost make a second career out of being volunteers. And then, you know, also a lot of people who come in, you know, just once, and however people choose to interact, it's hugely impactful. But it really is amazing, the people who, you know their names because you see them every week or even multiple times a week.
Mhm.
And, you know, I'm sure that, you know, you've heard a lot of stories from other folks about why they have chosen to volunteer with us. I wonder if you had any folks, you don't have to name people or anything like that, but just stories about what has really inspired some of the different people to join us.
Yeah, of course. It's all across the board. Of course, probably the most common factor, a lot of people are recent retirees and not quite ready to kick having some sort of routine. So they latch on to volunteering. And as Christine pointed out, maybe like get to know some buddies and start chit chatting and quickly form some bonds with people on site that gets them coming back more and more. But it's definitely interesting when you get people that come in through other means and latch on in some way and stick around longer than you ever thought they would. For example, we've got a current staff member who started up volunteering probably like, it must have been in 2015 or 2016, shortly after I first came on board on the team. But for food stamps, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, there's an able-bodied adults without dependence clause, which requires some sort of community service or work in order to receive the benefit. He was coming out to help volunteer in order to meet those needs. So he was doing all the hours he needed to do that. Worked really closely with one of our project areas for the better part of at least a year, if not a couple years. And when an opening became available on that team, he was a top candidate and actually took on the role and became an employee. So it was really cool to see that type of transition as well. And he even had a family member. He even had a family member who was
that's incredible.
Yeah, and he's fantastic. One of his family members is still super engaged as a volunteer with us as well and was coming out while he was working too. So we did some awesome recruitment there as well. But that's a really, really cool one. And it's also, we get a lot of people coming in to complete court order community service hours or school service hours too. And I'm not saying it's all the time, but it's really cool when someone's completed their hours and then still commits to coming out. Even after they've met that 24-hour requirement and end up becoming a 100-hour volunteer that year. There are definitely some cool stories along that front too.
Yeah, well, because I think, you know, as you've kind of talked about, is that our projects, you can really see the difference that you're making. Even the indirect service projects that, you know, you would do at the food bank instead of at the muni lot or at the Euclid pantry. I mean, you're handling, you know, the food that ultimately is going out to people. And, you know, I know like one of my favorite things is hearing you at the end of the shift. We always share like how much people have accomplished. And you know, there's a lot of things in life where you don't get really that you don't know. And I love how we know, like if you've come in, like you've made, 100 meals or 1,000 pounds of food have been put into boxes. And, I can see how like, it's a little addicting because you're accomplishing that. It's really, it's awesome. And I love that we let people know how much they're getting done.
Yeah, a lot of times we try to have the project leaders provide those statistics at the end of the shift, but we've also prioritized over the past couple of years collecting all the stats from all the different project areas on the back end so that we can send a daily snapshot to all the volunteers. So for example, everyone coming out today on Wednesday for all of our different project areas, we'll get most of those stats and we'll send out a thank you email to all the volunteers that were coming in, highlighting some of the groups that came out to volunteer, providing all the stats from all the different areas. So you're not just getting the specific stats for the area that you were in, but you're seeing how it fits into the larger picture and everything that, or not everything, but a lot of the things that the food bank's volunteers accomplished and helped us get done over the course of that full day as well.
Yeah, and because I know I had I was trying to come up with a fun title, and I just really struck on it takes a village, because when you do get those emails of everything that that people have accomplished, I mean it's really remarkable. And I mean it's every week it's hundreds of people who come together to be able to achieve that, and you don't see that in a lot of places. So I think it's really a credit to our community and the folks who who sign up, and then all our staff who make it just such a worthwhile experience for people. And Christine, I know obviously you really get to interact with a lot of people. I wonder if you had any folks that have really impacted you here.
Oh my gosh, I wouldn't even know where to begin. So many. I mean, all of our regular set of volunteers that I see every morning, like they're so fun. And it's just so fun to be able to like chit chat and like joke around and goof around with them before they start their shift. Yeah, there's so many. There's just too many. There's just simply too many.
Which is an amazing thing to be able to say.
Yeah.
But I know we were talking a little bit about the Euclid pantry experience, and I wanted to just kind of go a little bit deeper into that, because I don't know if many folks know about our Euclid pantry. It's only been open for about a year, and we basically we're looking at our service area, and there are some areas where there's a high concentration of people who are experiencing food insecurity, but for a variety of reasons, there aren't as many partners to help meet those needs. So we had looked at the Euclid areas as one of those and opened up our food pantry there, which is a very different from of the other programs that we run, since we're actually there on site working with clients. I've been able to volunteer several times over there, and it really is, a really amazing experience, much more like our program partners who are working directly with clients. But obviously it's really fun to work with volunteers and get to know them. But at the Euclid Pantry, you also get the opportunity to know our clients and hear a little bit about their stories. And it's actually really fun to kind of get to chit chat with people, help them pick out their food. It's really fun. And so I know, Matt, you're saying this, we've got a pretty regular schedule over at the Euclid Pantry. I know some shifts are a little bit longer. I know like the Thursday, I think, is one that we really like to try and get full. It's a really busy day for the pantry. Is that right?
Yeah. So when they built the schedule for the Euclid Pantry, they really looked at the existing schedules of some of our other partner programs in the area. And that end result ended up being a really, frankly, kind of wonky schedule that's kind of all over the place that I have down now. But I don't think many other people that aren't looking at those hours every week maybe commit to memory. But yeah, so like the good thing about it is like, because the hours are all over the place, there may be something for everyone when it comes to morning, afternoon, evening. On Mondays, we've got an 11:30 to 4 volunteer shift. Actually, there's a 10:30 to 12:30 helping to set up, and then there's an 11:30 to 4 helping to actually helping with the actual operation of the pantry. Tuesdays, we've got 9:30 to 1. Wednesdays is the longest day there, and typically the day the most clients come through because they have extended hours. So we've got that split up into 2 4-hour blocks, an 11 to 3 and a 3 to 7. On Thursdays, we've got a 3:30 to 7 shift, and on Fridays, it's a morning 8:30 to noon. Similar to our repack projects, they also operate on the first and third Saturday of each month and have volunteers come out to help out from 12 to 4. So don't feel like you have to remember that all now. It's all posted to our website. You can go on there, find all the different shifts, and there's also some information. But if you know anyone that may need some food support, they can always call our help center to learn a little bit more about that, or visit the pantry to learn more about the opportunities for help that might be available through that avenue too.
Yeah, I mean, I know when I've been there, we also, it's one of the places where we're experimenting with working with different partners on site. You know, you mentioned how when as we're renovating South Waterloo, there'll be a whole variety of different opportunities there. But you'll see, you know, at the Euclid Pantry is a smaller version of what we envisioned for South Waterloo. We do have, we've had, you know, the Metro Health kind of pop-up van to help do some basic health needs. We've had partners come in to help with free cell phones for qualifying people, all sorts of additional partners coming into that space. So that when folks come, you know, if you've got transportation issues or it's harder for you to get around, you can have more than one service at the same time, which is really helpful for a lot of our community members there. I know a lot of folks who come to the Euclid Pantry, you know, a lot of folks don't have access to a car. So they can, you know, do more than one thing at one time. It's, you know, really helpful for them. You know, as we open up South Waterloo, hopefully this fall, I'm sure we'll take a lot of lessons learned from being over at the Euclid Pantry too. Gosh, sorry. Well, you know, and I think also, you know, I've worked with a couple of folks who have been regular volunteers. And there was someone who I saw, we did like a little one-off volunteering for the turkey trot downtown. But I know we also have little kind of special volunteer things that will come up too sometimes. And I think that I love how the food bank also tries to get involved in all sorts of different ways in the community, where we have what we do, but we also are trying to support our partners, other special events and things like that too. I was wondering, you know, do you in working with other partners and other organizations, do we, you know, learn from other folks or other food banks, like how to do things? Do we help other organizations with their volunteering? Kind of the network effect.
Yeah, it's definitely both. It definitely goes both ways, both at the state level and the country level. At the state level, we got the Ohio Association of Food Banks that coordinates the different regions with different food bank territories within the state of Ohio. And we've definitely leaned on that network to connect with other more local food banks that are dealing with a lot of the similar issues that we are, or have lots of needs or problems that come up, and just trying not to recreate the wheel. And a lot of them are really in tune with the same type of things that are going on at the state level with us, both when it comes to general food bank programming and on our end specifically volunteer stuff too. So it's great to have that network on and off throughout the year. We work varying degrees with comparably sized food banks in Akron, Canton, Mid-Ohio for Columbus, and Cincinnati as well, with bringing in some of the other smaller food banks as well. But being four of the big metropolitan areas in the state, we've learned a lot from them, and hopefully I hope they've learned a lot from us too. But at the national level, the Feeding America is a national network of food banks, and they have a lot of resources for everything food bank related, but they also have a volunteer network that they built out. And on our end, the most frequent interactions we have, there's an email chain, an email listserv that any volunteer leadership teams can send an email question out to all these different volunteers, volunteer programs, soliciting feedback. And that's been really active over the past couple of years. It was probably the most active it's ever been in that year following the initial COVID shutdown, as we were all trying to scramble and figure out what would work best, what would allow us to still meet our production goals while keeping everyone safe. And it's been really, really great to learn from them. And then there's lots of other nonprofits that have very different needs, but still have very comparable volunteer needs. Local ones being MedWish, the Kids Book Bank, and a bunch of others that we have relationships with to different degrees and are able to learn from them as well and talk about best practices too. So to answer your question, yes, we learn a lot from other people, and we try to be as open and transparent for other people that come to us with questions as well.
Yeah, well, I mean, it really is incredible. And as you mentioned a couple of times, we had the National Guard for a really long time when we weren't able to have volunteers here. And then the new building. And so I'm sure, like, from trying to, manage this, that all of the change and all of the flux that has happened, that we've been able to take, I'm sure, like, a lot of lessons learned from just having to experiment and adapt and try and adjust. I mean, even you just said that we've got kind of a new 2-hour blocks because they had been different in for the last couple of years with COVID. So I'm sure it's just always constantly trying to tweak things and get feedback and responses and all that. Just to kind of make the best use of everyone's time.
But by no means would I want to go through all the COVID stuff again or continue to go through it. But when it came to our program, I think in the long term, some of the changes that we were able to make because of that initial volunteer pause that we had, and the time we were able to spend like evaluating how things were working and how things might be better and how we built upon that over the past couple of years since then. I think in the long term, we've made it allowed us to make some changes to our program that'll be really beneficial for years to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And since it is the new year, talking about trying to meet our goals, anything that, well, aside from obviously when we get South Waterloo open and how that will change everything, anything that we're thinking about on the horizon, special projects, or if there's areas that we would really love to get more volunteers in, anything kind of starting off 2023.
Yeah, I can start. The big thing that I want to plug is our skill-based volunteer program. This has been an active program on our end for probably 5-ish years or so. But with the pandemic hitting, we definitely had to kind of scramble and focus on more of our regular traditional volunteer programs to make sure we had the numbers we needed for those. But we've also got our skill-based volunteer program, which captures a lot of different roles that may not fall into what you traditionally think of as volunteering at the food bank. For example, we have a lot of volunteers on board supporting Christine as volunteer receptionists, especially as the nature of the reception role changed, now being the volunteer experience assistant and having a lot of volunteer related duties compared to what the receptionist role looked like before Christine came on board. We're definitely interested in seeing how volunteers may be able to support that position better in the coming years. But we've also got our other skill-based volunteer roles, active ones that include our Speakers Bureau. We have a lot of volunteers that are very familiar with the ins and outs of the organization and present on our behalf to different organizations. We have our pantry track specialist volunteers that help us and help our partner programs that may not have the support to be able to use the pantry track software as they need to. They'll help them and go to those sites and help them check in their clients. So definitely people with some basic computer background, maybe a little bit more of an IT background as well, help out in that role. And then we've also had volunteers helping on and off with home delivery. I mentioned that a lot of that transition to DoorDash, but we still have volunteers that are supporting our Nourishing Beginnings program, relatively new program over the past year, as home delivery volunteers. But on our website, we have a skill-based volunteer page. On there, we list all of the different active skill-based volunteer roles that we're recruiting for. We're hoping to really flesh that out and add more in the coming year. But we also have an interest form that'll allow you to, if you don't see something that lines up with exactly what you were thinking, you're able to fill out that form, let us know exactly how you're interested in helping. And even if we don't have something available right away, we at least have your name on our list and some of the notes about what you're interested in. So if the need does arise, we have that list of people who have expressed interest in something similar that we're able to pull from, reach out to, and lean on, which is a really great resource on our end that we're excited about.
Yeah, well, in my role, we've got a couple of volunteers who help in our development group with thank yous and all sorts of kind of different mailings. They even help with some of our database stuff as well. So it takes it's so impactful to be able to have extra sets of hands to do things, because like you said, it helps us get the word out. Help partners. I mean, Pantry Track, folks aren't familiar with that. It's the software system where, folks get checked in when they, come to a pantry, and that helps us understand, the need. It helps the program partner understand, how much food they might need to order from us. So it's extremely important to really have that accurate information. And it's amazing where you can find all of these different little, pieces of how the food bank works, and there's room for a volunteer pretty much everywhere. So I'm really excited to hear that we're really trying to reinvigorate that, like in this, kind of, nice, post COVID world that we're living in. Just, there are so many ways that you can get involved and do things. And you can, as Matt said, check out the website and fill out the interest form, because, there's stuff constantly that we're doing and experimenting with. So, we're getting close to the end. So just to remind folks, if you do have questions, you can use that Q&A. And if for some reason you have a question about a specific, type of volunteering or anything else about the food bank, everyone should have my contact information, and I can either reach out to Matt or Christine separately or get you in touch with them. We are always here to answer questions and get you more information. But I would just love to hear, whether it's about volunteering or not, just something that has really impacted you with working at the food bank. Definitely can be about a volunteer or a program, a client, just something that when you think about your time here, that just kind of is what really kind of encapsulates what the food bank means to you.
I'm lucky because I get to deal with all sorts of people sitting at the front desk. I think I've been most impacted, and it's just because it's like with the volunteers, it can just seem like a really fun thing that we're doing, but every now and again, a client will walk in seeking help from the help center, and just the look on their faces when they're done and they're leaving the building after we've helped them out is just unbelievably rewarding. And it kind of helps to keep me grounded as to like what we're really doing here, because we do play music during the volunteer shifts, and we like to joke around and have as much fun as possible. But I think that's what's one of the things that always impacts me the most, and that I really I cherish. I love these memories that I have of, and I'm just being kind and like sending them up to the help center, but they're just so unbelievably grateful just because we're kind to them when they walk in the front door, and I can't get over that. But I love it, and it's just a great reminder of what our mission is, amongst all the fun that we have.
I'll echo that for sure. And in the same vein, I have a really comparable thing that comes to mind. Pre-pandemic, we were hosting our food distributions on site on the third Thursday of each month. It was our produce distribution strictly. We'd have probably 800, 900 households come through on a monthly basis. And that was always one of my favorite days, because for this very similar way, you can feel that direct impact, see all the people that you're helping, and really get a lot of feedback on how much support, how much the food bank means to them. And then that grew immensely as the pandemic hit and we shifted the way we were doing it. We weren't able to continue to host those events on site because we had so many clients coming through. And these days we have been hosting them weekly over the past couple of years, again, with about a couple thousand households coming through each week. So on a weekly basis, we were doing about 2.5 times what we were doing on a monthly basis here at the food bank when it came to the amount of people we were supporting. So being able to see that and be a part of that and really feel that impact that our organization, staff, volunteers, donors has on the community has been really, really inspirational. And it's surreal that it's been a couple of years, almost 3 years of that specific program. But we are truly grateful to everyone that's played a part in it.
Yeah, it has been quite a few years. And it really is amazing how everyone has come together to make this work. Sometimes the numbers, you lose sight of those individual people who, Christine will see coming in, and who, if you're, at the Muni Lot or Youth Food Pantry, who you see, it goes from, millions of pounds, but that all ultimately ends up with, a family, a child at a school lunch, or, after school meal. So it's really remarkable what we've been able to accomplish here together. With a lot of the folks who have been joining us today. We appreciate your interest so much in learning more about volunteering at the food bank, the impact that you can have. We would love to see you here. If you haven't volunteered with us before, please join us. There are so many different ways to get involved. You can check out our website. We make it very easy and very clear where you can get some more information. And you can always, of course, reach out to me. And we would, just love to see you. We just couldn't be more grateful for, the people who come in, once, twice, or, many times after that. So I hope that everyone has a wonderful day. Thank you all so much for coming. Thank you, Matt and Christine, for taking some time out of your very, very busy days in between volunteer shifts to come talk to us. Truly appreciate everyone's time, energy, and generosity. And then you should have the link there in the chat. But thank you all so much for coming. And we hope to see you next month when we will actually be talking with our transportation team. As I mentioned, there's so many different moving parts to the food bank, and we'll be talking about the real movers and shakers, the folks who get food from a lot of our donors and who then drop it off to our partners. So we really hope that you will join us for that on February 15th. And again, please reach out with any questions. Thank you all for coming, and I hope that you have a wonderful day. Here.
Bye.